One of the aspects of MLP that sets it apart from other series is that many of the antagonists aren't simply defeated. In addition, they begin an effort to reform for the better. It's great that this can happen. However, doing so often adds another element to the narrative, which often falls under fire by critics questioning their believability and execution as they occurred in their respective episodes. That said, there's a major flaw that isn't taken into consideration in the arguments I've heard, and that's that these reformations are all compared to one another as if the circumstances for each are equal. Whether or not a character's reformation is believable requires a lot more than keeping track of how long it takes or how things played out as opposed to another character. It's important to also look at the circumstances that brought the character to that situation and the reasons and incentives behind their antagonism. The most recent of these reformations is Starlight Glimmer, raising criticism from the fandom for making such a change of heart from a philosophy she had practiced for what appeared to be a majority of her life in almost no time at all. Starlight's original motive was actually noble, to find a way to prevent the pain that she had felt during her youth. While it is true that over time she developed a bitter personality towards those who disagreed with her mentality, and seeking revenge on Twilight was asinine at best, it's all traced back to Starlight believing that the mentality she had developed was the right one. She found it necessary to protect what she thought was right, and due to her lack of true friendship, the means of protecting this were the causes of conflict seen in the Cutie Map and the Cutie Remark. She refused to listen to Twilight and the Cutie Map out of her own ignorance and stubbornness. However, when Twilight showed Starlight firsthand what the consequences of her philosophy were, she had no choice but to realize that she was wrong. She had realized that it was the friendship formed by diversity that protected Equestria, and that the world was a literal wasteland without it. She had believed that by eliminating individuality, the world would be a better place. That was why she did everything she did. But when she saw that she was wrong, her motives never changed. She still wanted to make the world a better place. She had simply learned that if she wishes to succeed, she would have to take a different approach, even if it meant swallowing her pride. Judging by her frantic denial and mixed facial expressions, this was by no means easy for her to do. But when you see the unintended cataclysmic consequences of what you had believed to be right as far as the eye can see, it won't take long for you to change. The character whose reformations have been most compared to Starlight Glimmers from my observation is Sunset Shimmer. However, when looking closely at them, they actually don't have very much in common. Unlike Starlight, Sunset had ill intentions from the get-go. Sunset was only after power and left Celestia because she felt that her wishes weren't being met as quickly as she had hoped. At Canterlot High, she was able to gain power using intimidation in the fashion of the school bully. From there, she sought Twilight's element of harmony, hoping that it would give her the power she had originally wanted and allow her to take over Equestria and expand her power even further. There was no reasoning with her until Twilight and the Elements of Harmony proved that not only was friendship more powerful, but it provided something more to be desired. In order to put Sunset into a position where she could even be reformed, she had to be stripped of all the power she had. She had to be at rock bottom before she could be reasoned with. Her intentions were selfish, and she needed to have the perceived rewards for her selfishness ripped away to make her realize that there was a better option. She watched as friendship flourished in the face of her attempted reign, and from there realized that what she was seeking wasn't right. Knowing that it took force to put her in the position to reform her, and that her intentions were selfish from the get-go, as opposed to Starlight's being misguided on her quest for a greater good, I don't see it possible to viably compare Sunset and Starlight's reformations by putting them on a level playing field. These two antagonists come from totally different backgrounds and had totally different motives and objectives. Thus, the means by which they would be reformed, what it would take to sway them, and how fast or slow the reformation would take place don't mean that these reformations are greater or less in quality. Instead, it simply signifies a diversity of types that can all achieve more through friendship, and to objectively pit one against another based on the same specific criteria does no justice to either side. Each character's reformation is just another piece to their own respective arc, and each is presented in a way that ties up and satisfies individual problems from their past and present so that they can all have better futures. These examples, and there are others in the series too, are all really unique. They all have their own purposes, and they're representative of different ideas and different scenarios. I believe that if we all take a minute to see these events as what they are in their own right, as opposed to holding them all to the same arbitrary standards, that not only will we grow to appreciate and understand these characters and their stories more, but will grow to appreciate them for the right reasons.